I'm very glad that I had that discussion with Candace McClure about how she just all of a sudden is like walking around her apartment acting like a cheetah just because that's what actors do in their spare time. And I'm not an actor, but it made me feel more at home with myself. The fact that I walk around my apartment and I'm like, listen here, see, I'm going to smack you in the face right now, and do all these weird voices and talk like Liam Neeson.
So Candace McClure basically justified your craziness.
Yeah, that's why I love her.
You're listening to the Mach 5 podcast, the podcast for geek news and culture. And here are your hosts, Jason Zimmerman and Jacob Lee.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Mach 5 Geek News Podcast. This is the show where each week we get you caught up on and discuss some of our favorite news headlines in movies, gaming, tech, science, and other off-the-wall topics. My name is Jason Zimmerman, and the man to my right is, of course, Jacob Lee. What is up?
I'm back!
Wow.
Back!
You are back.
Back in the saddle again. I will never be Steve Perry. or Steven Tyler. I will never be him. But we're back after a week off from
we had
spring break and Jason blowing up the recording streams.
Blowing up. You know, you guys did not get a show last week. Jacob was out. I was doing a show by myself, and let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I was rocking it last week. It was just me and a microphone for an hour talking Mach 5 geek news. I had good stuff in there. Let me tell you, I had 23 things you didn't know about Firefly. I had a Mustang on top of the Empire State Building. I had some cool video game stuff. I had everything going on.
This sounds like one of those legendary Barney Stinson tales. It's not real. I had a Mustang on top of the Empire State Building, and I brought back Firefly from cancellation. And
Right.
It was legendary.
It really was legendary. And you know, I was saving after I finished. I was saving it out, and I thought it was done saving when my computer randomly gave me the Windows 8 blue screen of death. And if you're a Windows user, I'm sure you've no doubt seen the blue screen of death. Well, in Windows 8, if you haven't seen it, they give you one of like an emoticon smiley face, you know, the colon.
God.
And
That's even worse.
You know, and it's like 500 point font. It's just this huge smiley face to make you feel better about your blue screen, I guess. And so I thought, okay, I'm pretty sure the episode's saved. No, file corrupted. I was so depressed.
I'm sorry, I'm still stuck on the emoticon smiley face, blue screen of death. It's like someone at Microsoft did a focus group, and they're like, you know, what can make your blue screen experiences more pleasant? And someone was like, a smiley face, all sarcastically, like, fix the problem is what they really meant to say, but they said, a smiley face, like, sarcastically. And the person was like, oh, that's good. That's good. We can't fix the number of blue screens of death, but we can give them a smiley face.
Hey, and that's what they did, apparently, you know?
That would make me more mad.
Oh, I know. It was taunting me.
It gives you a target, right? Like, the blue screen is an iconic thing. The Xbox red ring of death became a thing, right? Like, people called it something, right?
Right.
Because it gives it a symbol, more or less, right? Like when a PlayStation 3 died, which happened a lot with the first version of it, there was nothing special about it. It was just dead.
Yeah.
But
it didn't get a cool name.
It didn't get a cool name. So it didn't catch on as much and people didn't know as much about it, you know? But like Microsoft now giving the blue screen of death, they could have just made it black. You know, they could have just made it a black or gray screen, you know, something that says nothing, right? Instead, now they're giving it a smiley face, and now it's going to be known as like the smiley face of doom or something like that.
That needs to catch on, the smiley face of doom, because that's how it felt. And now we have a lost
the Cheshire
episode.
Cat has eaten Windows 8. That's I don't know.
Something.
It's like when Chrome does this, and I don't really like it. It gives you like a little dinosaur, and it's like, Chrome is not connected to the internet. Here's a dinosaur, and I'm like, I don't like that dinosaur. It's like the dog in Duck Hunt that's like. I don't like that. Like, I'm like, Screw you, dinosaur.
Yeah.
The weird topics you will hear if you're a new listener on Mach 5 Network.
Exactly. So that's why we have the Lost episode. And let me tell you, it was a good episode. You guys might not believe this, but it was the best episode we've ever had.
Nay, I would say it was too legendary for you to hear.
Yes.
And it was too legendary for your computer to handle.
It really was. My computer just thought, it was like, oh.
We've already established that Jason is the best thing to come out of Cleveland on the Picture Show podcast.
Right. Yeah, we did that.
And so him being the best thing to come out of Cleveland, I've now decreed that Jason is too cool for Windows 8.
Hey, I'm going to go with that. I will go with that. Too cool for Windows 8. I like it. All right. Well, here, before we get started, everybody, if you have not yet done so, be sure to subscribe to our show in iTunes or Stitcher Radio. You can find the links to do that on our website at mach5network.com or by searching for the show on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. And for our iTunes listeners, don't forget, you can leave us a review. And if you like the show, a 5-star review is always welcomed and appreciated and rewarded heavily with high fives and mad hugs. And so if you have been listening to these 11 episodes now and you plan to listen for the next 11 million more, we urge you to fight the internet trolls and leave us a positive review, and we will love you forever for it. And also don't forget, if you have something to say, you can find us across all social media at Mach 5 Network. That is our name, /Mach 5 Network everywhere, or just email mach5network@gmail.com. Now, we do have one other special announcement that I will let Jacob talk about with our Flipboard fun.
Yeah, so if you have an Android or an iOS device, you've probably heard of an app called Flipboard. And if you're not familiar with it and you haven't downloaded yet, please do so, especially if you're a longtime listener to the show, because Flipboard is basically it's a social media magazine, more or less, and it allows you to create your own magazines and subscribe to other magazines and things like your Facebook feed and your Twitter feed and look at them all in cool magazine, newspaper type of form. And what we have done in the past week is we have created our own Mach 5 Network Flipboard magazine. And we've posted about 80 articles into it now of things that we find interesting and we think that you'll find interesting. And we've also decided that we're going to incorporate something else special into it. Flipboard is unique in that it allows us to, I sound like I'm reading, this is not prepared at all. I'm in marketing, so when I go into advertising mode, I go into advertising mode. So I had to break myself out of that there. I saw that.
You were flowing though. You were flowing.
Flipboard's really unique in that it has a collaborative feature for the creation of these magazines. So one of the things that we're going to do here on the Mach 5 Network is our Listener of the Week now is going to have an additional perk. If you are the Mach 5 Network Listener of the Week, or if you've been our Listener of the Week in the past, guys like Kaiju Jim and others, if you've been our Listener of the Week in the past, we are going to invite you into our secret collaborators Flipboard page, meaning that you can now contribute to the Mach 5 Network Flipboard, which then has links to our Twitter stream and hopefully eventually our Facebook stream as well. Meaning that if you are our Listener of the Week, you will have the ability to contribute content directly into the Mach 5 Network, and as a result, help us pick topics and things that we talk about and share them with everyone else who's a part of this community, which I think is really cool because now we can all communicate. We can post comments on Flipboard. Our listeners of the week are going to be able to add stories and have their stories be commented on. It's going to be a really unique take on a forum, which we're not having at this point in time. We may sometime down the future, but forums have become a big, ugly thing. We think it's going to be a really cool feature. It's a really unique way of communicating with everyone here. And it's a way to get our favorite listeners, and hopefully all of our listeners at some point, involved in the contribution of the Mach 5 Network. So with that being said, our Listener of the Week this week needs no guitar pick flip. It is Andrew K. He's been a longtime listener of ours here on not only the Mach 5 Network, but also on WoW Files. And he posted a comment here on our Facebook page. And when we posted the question, is free-to-play gaming with microtransactions really the future of gaming as we know it? Share your thoughts with us. Andrew K said, part of me hopes not. It should be used in my opinion, for MMOs and MOBAs, which is the usual case, but only if done right, which is hard to know what that is, and priced right. It's when microtransactions bleeds into games that you shouldn't have to have them to begin with. If later game has ways to unlock for said paid items, guns, characters, items, etc., then I can deal with it. I am in 100% agreement with Andrew K there. I love like the free-to-play MMOs and MOBAs, and Hearthstone, which, spoiler for a future segment in the on this specific episode, Hearthstone just came out everywhere. The free-to-play model on that is awesome. Like, I don't ever feel like I have to pay money to be successful in that game, which is great. If I want to buy more card packs, I can, but I don't ever feel like I have to be viable, have fun, and compete against other players, and no one's deck feels super OP. And I really love that game and the way that game has used the free-to-play model. I think it's perfect. And some MMOs have done it really well. I think SWTOR's free-to-play model is really good right now with the subscription and the free-to-play aspects. I can't comment on any MOBAs, but yeah, when I pay $60 for a game, and then in order to get additional content, I have to like buy $50 or $60 more, like the subscription or the season pass type stuff, that aggravates me to no end. So Andrew K, I'll get in contact with you on maybe Facebook. And
should we have, okay, you're going to message. I was going to say, should our listener of the week who's been picked, should they email us, or are you going to try and contact them? How should we work this?
You can email us. Why don't we have you do that? You'll email us. I'll respond via email and get you invited to the Flipboard because I'm going to need your email address anyway. And then, yeah, we'll do it that way. If I can find you on Facebook, I'll message you personally on Facebook so that we can communicate that way.
Right, there we go. Email mach5network@gmail.com. You're in. And Andrew, just to
in
comment.
A super secret society of Flipboard contributors.
Yes. And to comment briefly on his comment, we had a great talk about your comment about the future of gaming on the Lost episode of the Mach 5 podcast. It was a good time. I had an article. I read some things. We laughed. We talked. We cried. We sang songs about gaming. It was wonderful. It was, dare I say, legendary, and it will never be heard. But there you go.
Oh, I also want to give a special shout out to shutupandtakeMyMoney.com. They reached out to us and said, hey guys, we heard your podcast and wanted to say thanks for your shout out. Keep up the good work and let us know if you need anything. Love shutupandtakeMyMoney.com. We love shutupandtakeMyMoney.com. We think it's one of the best geek product sites out there. Super cool service. And we're so happy that they listened and that they're supporting us in this. So super cool. We love you guys. Look forward to a long and fruitful friendship.
And one more thing before we get started on the Listener of the Week issue. Last week, we, in the show that never happened, but did happen secretly, Kaiju Jim was crowned the back-to-back Listener of the Week by me for no reason other than the fact that he had his picture taken with Will Wheaton, which I thought was awesome. And while that crowning of back-to-back Listener of the Week will never be heard by the masses, Kaiju Jim, we thank you for your support. And now we will get to our first segment of this show, where we go off the grid. We are now off the grid. And our first topic this week, you can build your own robots with Tinkerbots. These toys are some of the most amazing little bricks you will ever build with. Say goodbye to Legos because these Tinkerbots are pretty awesome. So what they are is, if you look up Tinkerbots.com, you will see they look like they could be little Legos, essentially. They're little colored blocks that you can stick together and build things with. But according to the CEO of Kinematics and co-founder Matthias Berger, these mix and match bricks are designed to grow with a child by offering various programming options after they are put together. Each set of bricks is built around a red Power Brain brick, and Arduino microcontroller kitted out with a 2-hour battery, a USB port for charging, a Bluetooth module, a speaker, a basic control panel that includes record, play, and volume buttons. So once you snap together a contraption, you program it by pressing the record button on the power brain brick. You twist the robot's motorized parts. It will remember those movements and then replicate them when you hit the play button. And if you want to step it up, you can write your own code, and you can also program your robots via the Arduino IDE. So basically, think of motorized Legos that you can snap together, twist, and program to move. Some of the things that they're building with these are flying quadcopters. They're adding propellers to it. People are making, cars and all kinds of crazy things, grabber claws. And one of the things it also says here is that with the car kit, you can steer your car around with an Android app, and with an iOS version coming soon, touchscreen controls on your phone can steer your little car robot that you're building. And this started out as an Indiegogo campaign that blew past its $100,000 goal. It's nearly doubled it. And so there you go. For $160, you can get the basic car building set. There's animal theme sets for $230. The grabber claw for $400. For $500 gets you a fully loaded kit. But this is just amazing, the things you can do with these Tinkerbot bricks. Pretty cool stuff. I like it.
I have one thing to say.
Yes.
All this has happened before, and all this will happen again.
Oh, yeah.
That's how the Cylons were created. Not by the government, but by a think tank making children's toys.
Dun, dun, dun.
No, it's kind of cool. I like it.
So check out Tinkerbots. I think it's one of the coolest new toys out there. Definitely. It looks like fun, and it requires some thought, and you can do really cool things with it. So check out Tinkerbots. Next up, own your own life-size Darth Vader. Made by Gentle Giant Ltd. It is a life-size Darth Vader figure. It is nearly 7 feet tall, modeled after the original Kenner Darth Vader action figure. And you can own your very own life-size Darth Vader vintage monument, they're calling it. You can pre-order right now for a cool $2,600.
I knew it had to be a pretty penny there. But yeah, how awesome would it be to have a life-size Darth Vader standing in your place?
I know, seriously, I'm like, this thing is awesome. It is really
really
awesome.
is, but I would be really freaked out all the time. Like, I would forget it's there. Also, it's nearly 7 feet tall, right? And so
Right.
here's a funny story. A few friends of mine, a friend of mine bought a life-size cutout, so a cardboard cutout of Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory.
Mm-hmm.
And he had it in his house with his wife, and every time we walked over there, it freaked us out. It was in one place. Then they started realizing it freaked us out. Like, it would surprise us because there would just be this person standing there. You'd be like, "Wow, what is that?"
Yeah.
And Sheldon's a really tall guy too. So they started moving it into different places around their houses
Yeah.
and freaking people out that way. And then it got ratcheted up another notch where Sheldon would start appearing like outside of our apartment. Like, they'd knock on our door and put Sheldon there. I mean, it got extreme, and it was really hilarious. And that was a cardboard cutout. So a life-size Darth Vader action figure, I think I really want it, but at the same time, I think I would be really freaked out all the time too.
You would be, because you would seem like out of the corner of your eyes somewhere and be like, "Ah,
Yeah.
who's that?"
Darth Vader chilling out the corner of my thing. And it's one of those things, like, there was a scene in Oculus the other week, like, where, and it's in a lot of horror movies where something's covered with a sheet and you don't know if it's real and alive or not.
Right.
And I'd be constantly, like, in the corner of my eye looking at that Darth Vader thing, waiting for it to, like, turn its head a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, like I'd be at constant war with it. I'm like, so I don't know. I think it's really cool. I love things like this, but at the same time, I think it would freak me out a little bit if I actually had one in my own home.
It would probably end up being a little freaky, but it looks pretty sweet. So I guess that's the trade-off. Be freaked out or, you know, have this awesome $2,600 Darth Vader. If you can afford a $2,600 Darth Vader, by the way, more power to you.
Yeah, if you can afford that, or if you can afford it and get approval from spouse.
Yes.
For you.
Yes, definitely. Next up, it turns out here, research shows that the T-Rex did not need its stupid little baby arms after all. A team led by Eric Snively of the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse published research this month in the Journal of Zoology that showed that the T-Rex's little arms probably didn't give the dinosaur much trouble because of its powerful neck. Snively and his team studied 10 species of birds, eagles and things like that, and the team studied the neck muscles of these birds by attaching electrodes to their skin, and this recorded the electrical activity of those muscles, which are similar to those in the neck of a T-Rex. Birds were also filmed to show their neck movements during actions like attacking prey or pulling prey apart. So basically what they were able to find out from these experiments that the little baby arms that the T-Rex had were pretty much, you know, kind of useless because it had this giant neck where it could just rip down and rip things apart. So
basically it's the same thing like with us having that some people like have a tail or whatever that we, you know, evolved from, or some people like what's the one thing we have, a appendix?
yeah,
It's completely pointless, but we have it because of evolutionary reasons, and it hasn't evolved completely out of us yet, or most of us. So there you go. The arms aren't there for any type of purpose whatsoever. It was just an evolutionary thing that didn't get evolved out of yet, basically,
Yeah.
with the T-Rex, which is kind of cool.
it is kind of cool. You know, one of the things that I was actually going to talk about last week, they had
On the legendary episode.
on the legendary show. I forget. I don't have it in front of me anymore. But they had just put together I believe it was the T-Rex bones that were all put together in this whole giant thing in a museum or something somewhere. I wish I could. God, I wish I could remember it now. But yeah, the old T-Rex, good stuff. Let's move to the next thing here because this makes me a little bit hungry. Because dreams do really come true. We have the tiered pizza cake.
It's the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life.
This thing is so crazy looking.
I want one.
Yeah, I'm trying to. It says this pizza cake, an entry in Boston Pizza's Pizza Game Changers competition. This pizza chain claims that the pizza product with the most votes will be made a reality. So obviously, this will be the winner. But it looks like a giant layer cake of like 6 layers that are just, each layer is like another slice of pizza.
And it's all inside of this like pan pizza crust, right?
Yeah.
It's golden brown on the outside. It looks delicious and awesome. And it's one of those things too, you know, if you're one of those people that likes eating pizza with a fork, here's your pizza to eat with a fork, because there ain't no way you're eating that sucker with your hands.
No, this thing is ridiculous. I mean, you look at it and it's huge. It's so thick. I mean, I don't even know how this would cook all the way through, because it looks like there's layers of crust with cheese and like pepperoni and sausage, and then another layer of crust with cheese and pepperoni and sausage and ham, and just all these.
You just
layers.
have all the meats pre-cooked, and then all you need to do is melt the cheese.
Yeah, I guess so.
And the crust, and
hope that
make sure the crust is cooked.
Yeah.
There's probably some cool like oven thing that they could stick it in. It's like a big pot, and it just perfectly distributes the heat in there or something.
Yeah, this thing is it's kind of nuts. So yeah, we have the tiered pizza cake. I'm trying to see who
We posted pictures on our Twitter stream and in our Flipboard of the tiered pizza cake. which was reported by Geekology.com. And I am very thankful for that because I really want to try one of these things now.
I guess you could also stack 6 pizzas on top of each other, but it still wouldn't be as awesome as this because you have the crust around the entire outside of this. It's so well done. Pizza cake. It's what's for dinner.
Yeah.
And finally, in off the grid news, the telescope big enough to spot signs of alien life on other planets. Let me see here. Cerro Armazones is a crumbling dome of rock that dominates the parched peaks of the Chilean coast range north of Santiago. For in a few weeks, the 10,000-foot mountain is going to have its top knocked off. We are going to blast it with dynamite and then carry off the rubble, says engineer Gerd Hudepol. We will take about 80 feet off the top of the mountain to create a plateau, and when we have done that, we will build the world's biggest telescope there. So it says here, given the peak's remote, inhospitable location, that might sound an improbable claim, except for the fact that he has done this sort of thing before. He is one of the European Southern Observatory's most experienced engineers and was involved in the decapitation of another nearby mountain, Cerro Paranal, on which his team erected one of the planet's most sophisticated observatories. So here we have them about to knock the top off of a mountain and build a giant telescope that can possibly spot aliens.
And well, here's the coolest part about this whole article. They project that this telescope will be able to actually see out of our solar system. That's how powerful
crazy.
This thing. Yeah, that's the thing that blows my mind to me. Now, whether or not there's actually going to be very many straight lines of nothingness all the way outside of our solar system, it seems kind of crazy, you know, like it's like, you know, how often do you get on a flat plane where you can actually see for miles without a tree or something obstructing it? Here, it's like, what if a star or something, you know, an asteroid or a rock or something's obstructing your view to the other solar system?
Yeah.
But the fact that they're projecting that it could be that powerful is insane to me. I mean, we're sending out probes and droids and little whatever Voyagers and stuff like that out just to other planets. So having something that can see even way further than that is super cool to me.
Oh, definitely. If this thing comes to fruition and it can do what they think it will be able to do, that's pretty amazing for, you know, getting at, is there other things out there that we haven't been able to see that we're now going to be able to see? And what a letdown would it be if we see nothing, if they spin this thing around and there's like, okay, there's nothingness.
Well, there's that quote that there are two, I can't remember if it's Carl Sagan or Asimov or one of those guys, but there are two distinct possibilities, either we are alone in this universe or we're not. Both are equally as frightening. I love that
That's
quote.
A good point. That's a great
I love that quote. Like, can you imagine that? We are the only life in this entire universe. That's scary. And at the same time, there are there could be tons of other life forms out there in the universe and we don't even know what the heck they're like or what their motives are or what they're doing or where they are in their evolutionary cycle, you know, what they have in terms of technology. That's also frightening. And that's one of my favorite quotes out there.
Yeah, so I guess the other side is that the telescope spots a planet with somebody like waving back like, hey,
what's up, bro? We've been looking at you for a long time. We just can't get there yet.
Right.
That would be great.
That would be great.
Oh, there's an interesting, speaking of alien life, there's an interesting documentary. I don't know if it's still on Netflix, but it was there for a little while, called Dan Aykroyd on UFOs. I'm not kidding. That's what the name of the documentary is. I don't know. Have I talked about it on the show before?
I don't think so, no.
It's called Dan Aykroyd on UFOs. Now, in terms of how it was shot as a documentary, it's really kind of weird because the interviewer will be asking Dan Aykroyd a question, and there's a camera sitting straight into Dan Aykroyd. Not that nice offset camera look that you see in all documentaries and interviews, but there's one staring directly at Dan Aykroyd's face as the interviewer is asking him a question, and all you see is Dan Aykroyd nodding his head, like all serious and everything. And I'm like, and it does that throughout the entire documentary. I'm like, who decided that was a good a good cinematographic choice? Like,
yeah,
that's some
very
terrible,
strange.
That's some terrible, strange things. But if you can get past that stuff, Dan Aykroyd is one of the if you've ever listened to a guy talk about aliens and be completely serious about it and 100% believe in their possibility, it's that guy. Like, he is 100% convinced that they're in existence. And if you can get past that, oh, he might be a little bit nutty thing, he actually makes some really good points about like the world needing to have a unified policy on how we will all react in this situation, and thinking down the downstream consequences of making first contact. And
interesting.
There's a lot of interesting like plays on that scenario and theories that he has about it. And like I said, even though it's really poorly executed in terms of its cinematography, it's really interesting in terms of its content. So there you go.
Check that out.
Check that out. I like Dan Aykroyd though, even though he can be a little nutter butter at times.
All right, that's going to do it for Off the Grid. Let's move right now into video game talk in virtual insanity. All right, this is Virtual Insanity, where we talk video games, and right off the bat, it is the 25th anniversary of the Nintendo Game Boy. Now, do we all feel old?
I had no clue that thing came out when I was 3 years old.
Wow.
I was 3.5 when the Game Boy came out. I didn't even think it existed until I think I got my first Game Boy when I was like 6 or 7, and I thought it like just came out that year.
Really?
Yeah. And I had that one, the big 4-battery monstrosity that was the original Game Boy.
Yeah.
With Tetris and the one Mario game that it had. And yeah, my grandma loved playing Tetris on that thing. But yeah, I can't believe that it's 25 years old.
It's really, yeah, it's hard to believe. It seems like time flies so much. I never had a Game Boy. I always wanted one. I don't know. My parents were always like, no, you're not getting a Game Boy. But now you look back at it and you look at how clunky it looks, and it's that greenish yellow screen, and you go, man, 25 years ago we had the Game Boy. I guess it makes sense when I think about it. I mean, God, this year would actually be my 20-year high school reunion. That's how old I am. God, I'm really old. So yeah, I guess 25 makes sense. It just doesn't seem like it's been that long. Happy birthday, Game Boy.
Crazy.
No doubt about it. All right, next up in Virtual Insanity, Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft. The digital TCG is now available on the iPad everywhere, and I personally have downloaded it on my wife's iPad. I have not played it yet, though, but I did download it. And I actually haven't played Hearthstone at all. Even before it was on the iPad, I didn't play it, on PC or anything. I feel that I will get addicted to this game, but yeah, I haven't tried it yet.
It is awesome. I have one friend who's really negative on Hearthstone and says like, I want to make a mage burn deck and they're not allowing me to do it yet. Well, it's still really early in terms of its card life cycle. I mean, they haven't had a single expansion to cards yet. It's like brand new. It's not like Magic that's been around for however long Magic's been around, like 20, 30 years. Like if the Game Boy's 25 years old, I imagine Magic the Gathering's like 800 years old. Right. But it's really good. It's really good. And I really loved the Pokemon card game. And back when it was out, I haven't played it in years, like 15 years or something like that. And I really liked the Warcraft card game, or Warcraft TCG. I never really had that many people to play it with, though. But this is a card game that I don't have to like have a bunch of cards. I haven't pumped a single dollar into this game yet. And I'm getting new cards like every day. And it's great. And it's a ton of fun. And the fact that it's on my iPad now is awesome. I have one gripe with it in that it's always online. Like you can't play it when you're not online. But I was recently traveling in the airport and I had a 3-hour layover, I just went in the Delta Crown Room or whatever that has free Wi-Fi, and I played Hearthstone in there for 2 hours and
nice.
I was perfectly content. And it's awesome. It's super fun. Like, the games can last from 3 minutes to 10 minutes, I would say, is the range on how long games last. And it's one of those great things you can do. You just pick it up and play it as much as you want at any given point in time during a day. And it's great. It's free. Like I said, I haven't pumped $1 into it.
That's always
And
nice.
the free-to-play model on it is great. It gives you the option, if you're like super hardcore into it, right, and you want to like min-max everything, you can go in there and buy a crap ton of booster packs. They're like $2 a piece or something like that, and you get discounts the more, bundled you buy. Or you can save up 100 of the Hearthstone coin type things that you gain, and you make about 150 of them and buy a pack. Or you can go into arena mode and like try to get rare cards by winning things with a deck that's kind of randomized, and you have to pick it up. It's great. It's great. Like, I tend to buy the booster packs with the gold that I make each day because I don't have the time to go in and try to win a bunch of arena matches in a row and try to get the better cards. But every booster pack of 5 cards guarantees you a rare. And so
nice.
I buy a new booster pack every day when I do the little quests, and I make my 150 Hearthstone coins, and I'm happy. Like, it's mind-blowing. And they've already announced their first expansion is going to be a Naxxramas expansion with I think maybe a new class or at least a new hero. So they're obviously working on developing it and adding more content. It's awesome. It's one of the best things Blizzard's come out with in years.
And to answer a couple questions for people, if you're already playing Hearthstone on your PC, don't worry, because it's all shared across your Hearthstone account. So when you log in on the iPad, all of your cards and everything will be there. It transfers right over. So if you have not played on the iPad yet, don't worry, it transfers over. And an added bonus for giving Hearthstone a try on your iPad, you will be able to earn a free pack of cards. So there you go. Give it a try and play it on the iPad. Next up in Virtual Insanity, PlayStation Now private betas are going out. And it looks like our very own Jacob has a PlayStation Now private beta invite.
Yeah, I got the email on Monday.
Nice.
And I haven't downloaded it yet because they haven't actually sent me the code like to punch into the PSN to download it. But I'm super excited about it. The PlayStation Now beta is, if you don't know, I'm not sure if we've covered it for sure on this show yet. But if you don't know, the PlayStation Now beta, PlayStation Now is basically a Netflix for video games that Sony is coming up with. So you're going to be able to rent video games over the PlayStation Network and play them that way. So I think it's like $5 or something like that for a certain time period. Or I believe they're doing a subscription model where you're going to have access to a lot of free games consistently in a different way from the PlayStation Plus model. And it's really cool. It looks like one of the first games that they're going to be adding is the Beyond Two Souls, which I don't have. So I'm going to be looking forward to playing that. And it looks like they're going to be adding The Last of Us and a bunch of other exclusives on there. So it's a really unique, cool offering that they're going to be setting up with the PlayStation. And again, focusing on that whole, the PlayStation is a gaming console thing, right? Now it's going to have a gaming rental Netflix type thing on it, which is super awesome.
The thing that I'm wondering now, are the games actually streaming, or do you download them to your system?
I'm not 100% sure on that. It says that you want to have at minimum a 5 megabytes per second internet connection speed.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask next.
For the best results. So I imagine it's going to be like this. I imagine it's going to use the same system as the PlayStation 4. Like, you can play it as its downloading model, where it downloads things sequentially. so that once it's ready to play, you can play it before it's fully officially downloaded. I imagine that's how it's going to behave. It's not going to be like a constant streaming connection between the content and the actual game.
How would you feel about it if it was? That would be interesting, like full streaming.
It would.
You'd have to have some serious internet for it.
You really would, because for it to, I imagine this would how it worked. You download the platform for which it's playing on, but all the content files, like the animations and the cutscenes and stuff like that, don't download until you need them. But then that wouldn't be fast enough unless you had like ridiculous internet speed, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that wouldn't work as well. What I think that they're going to do is kind of like what Spotify does, and kind of like what I wish Netflix would do. So like Spotify, and I'm sure other music services have this feature as well, but like on your iOS app, if you subscribe to Spotify, you can have a offline copy of, I think, like 3,000 songs or something like that at any given point in time that you can listen to, like when you're on the plane or when you don't have a phone connection or an internet connection. You can listen to those songs, but they can only be listened to in the app. And I wish Netflix would do something like that, so I could have access to the streaming library, and then I could just watch House of Cards while I'm on the plane.
Right, like you could download so many hours of content
before and keep it, and then when I wanted different content, I could just sync different content to my iPad, which would be cool. But I think it's going to go like that, where you download the stuff, it's on your system, there's no way to get it off, but and the only way that you can play it is if you have that active subscription or whatnot.
Well, we will get an update once you get in there and start actually messing around with it. You'll have to report back on PlayStation Now.
Definitely. But cool news. One of my friends was super jealous that I got a beta invite to it.
And next up, we have the Elder Scrolls Online launch.
Yeah, so I bought Elder Scrolls Online. I told myself I was not going to do it. I was not going to do it. I was going to wait. And then I was talking with one of my friends. He's like, I really like it. I think it's really cool. And then I thought to myself, I've got that 20% off Best Buy thing. It would only be $48. And so, and then I went into Best Buy. I got there, and then I looked at the box, and it said Win and Mac. And I said to myself, I had no clue. I was living under a rock, apparently. I had no clue it was already had a native Mac client support at launch. And so I was like, You know what? I'm buying it, because they're doing that right. That's one of the things I thought that has always made WoW superior, even if it's not a superior game. The fact that it has cross-platform play, and the fact that it's one of the few games that you can play on a Mac, natively, like the Blizzard games, all of them. And so many people have Macs nowadays that, I mean, if I was a Mac user and I was kind of a gamer, and I liked the Elder Scrolls, and I saw the Elder Scrolls Online's available on Mac, and I don't have to have some weird third party whatever like conversion of it, I would play it,
Yeah.
And so I got it. I did the 60 gigabyte download or whatever for it, and I've been playing it, and I've really kind of liked it thus far. It's a little grindy.
Nice.
It's a little grindy, but I really like the class system and the flexibility that it has in it. It feels like an Elder Scrolls game, but not 100% like Skyrim. But it feels so different from like Warcraft or SWTOR or Rift or any of those games, with the exception of like DC Universe Online, where its combat system is really unique. And I really like it, because that's the thing with like playing WoW to SWTOR to Rift. The combat was identical in all three of those games mostly. And so even though you're looking at different art styles and different character types, and you had different skills, the combat was still the same. And in this, with the like, there is no auto attack, right? You push buttons and you dodge and you do all that stuff, and it controls like an Elder Scrolls game. I really like it because it's different. And that's one of the things I've always liked about DC Universe Online too. Speaking of a free-to-play game, which is really good. If you have a PS4 or a PS3, try out DC Universe or a computer, a Windows computer. Try out DC Universe Online, because it's a lot of fun. and it's free. So I mean, you sacrifice the download time on it. Just give it a try. And that has a really unique combat system as well. And so, to me, it's the only gripe I have about it right now or the only two gripes I kind of have about it right now are that it's kind of grindy. It takes a while to run places, which I think if they hear that complaint enough, but there is a really nice like waypoint system where you can teleport anywhere from any point. You don't even have to run to the waypoint. If you don't feel like running to the waypoint, you can actually just pay a little bit of gold and teleport anywhere to any waypoint that you've discovered, which is
that's nice. Super
handy.
Yeah.
The other one is kind of not a complaint, but kind of a complaint, and that is every quest is voiced, and there's a rich kind of story behind each quest, and there's a lot of dialogue, and you can ask follow-up questions that's also voiced just like Skyrim.
Yeah.
But because there's so many quests and I'm on this like mission to level, I'm kind of like I'm interested and I want to listen, but I also want to get going. Like I only have so many hours. Let's get going. Like I'm fighting myself that whole time. Like I want to ask more questions and listen, but at the same time I want to get going so I can level and get more cool stuff. But it's a problem for me, but it's also a nice thing, right? That it's actually got me interested in the quest. Whereas in like Warcraft, it's like, I don't even read the quest. And half the time in Star Wars: The Old Republic, some of those quests I don't even care about. Especially later on in the game, I care about the class quest, but all the other ones I'm just kind of like, eh. But this one I'm sitting here like listening to everything these people say, and actually want to listen.
Yeah, it definitely gives you a better idea of the storyline around every quest, and it kind of forces you to, understand what's happening in the lore and with your quest and with the characters and all of that sort of thing, whereas it's so easy to bypass it in a World of Warcraft. So I get that too, because when I was playing it in the beta, I was like, wow, you're sitting here and wading through a lot of dialogue, and again, with the follow-up questions and all of that. But I think if you allow yourself to kind of just give into it and just soak it in and take your time, it's super fun. But if you are ton of content, but if you're in that mentality, which it's sometimes hard to get out of for a lot of MMO players, especially probably World of Warcraft players, at least a lot that I know and have played with over the years, where you want to level, you want to get to max level, quest text be damned. I know that I got to run over here and kill 8 of these guys and run over there and grab this and then kill this named mob over here and do this. And you just level, go. So it definitely slows down the process, but it's a trade-off for sure.
The other really cool thing is I've created a couple characters, but the one that I've been playing the most, I've only played for about 2 days now, but the only character that I play the most is a Templar. And you can make any race, any spec basically, or any class, and then all those classes have access to all the weapon types, which is crazy.
Yeah. Wait, you can any race can play any of the 3 factions, or any race. If you have the Explorers pack, which is in like the pre-ordered copies, or like the copies that you find physically in the store. Okay.
Which I got that, so I could play any race, with the exception of the Imperial race, which is unlocked only through that collector's edition or by paying another $20 upgrade. But the $20 upgrade also includes a horse at level 1. So now that I know that I like it, I might do it, but I don't like that practice. That made me mad that they're like gating weird things for extra money, right? That practice is shady because you're already dropping $60 on the game and a subscription fee.
Yeah.
I don't like that, but if you've got that, like regardless, you may not be able to choose the right faction, but you'll still be able to make like any race, any class. There's no you can't make a dwarf. Actually, dwarves can be everything now. Druid. You can't make a dwarf druid in WoW, right? You're not allowed to do that. But in this, I can be an Argonian Templar if I wanted to, or a Breton Templar like my guy is. And then that Breton Templar can wear any type of armor he wants. And if I want to shoot arrows with my Templar, I don't have to play a hunter to shoot arrows. I could shoot arrows with my Templar and be proficient at it. Like, it's really cool in that respect. Like, I've got my Templar spec'd out right now for two-handed weapons and bows, and I'm shooting guys with my bow, with my Paladin, basically, Templar, and I also have ranged attacks, so I have a ranged, like, holy fire dot that I throw at guys, and I'm shooting at bows. And then I also have this Templar like light spear, basically, that I can throw at the same distance as a bow that knocks dudes down for 3 seconds. So I knock them down with my cool magical Templar abilities, and I'm shooting bows at them at range. That's really cool. Like, you don't see that in any other games. And then if I want to dual wield or use a staff with my Templar and make my Templar a magic caster, I can do that too.
I know that.
If I want to make him a clothy, I can make him a clothy, which is weird. And from what my friend tells me too, like, you can make a Nightblade, which is basically like a rogue assassin hunter type class. If you want to make a Nightblade tank, they may not be the best tank in the game, but they're going to be viable.
It's so crazy.
Yeah, because what makes you a tank is if you have a sword and shield equipped, and then you basically just take the talent tree down that class that has like all the siphoning skills. So you have like this kind of pseudo magic-y skill as a Nightblade where you can basically like absorb energy like a warlock kind of. So you basically like take all those skills, but then you take your weapon skills that have taunt and damage mitts from your sword and shield weapon class, and you've got yourself an assassin tank, basically.
I know, it's so crazy. The possibilities are endless. I mean, it's, that's what they do in the Elder Scrolls games. They allow you to be who you want to be, which is, it's refreshing and scary at the same time, because the constraints kind of gave me a safety net, whereas this openness,
you knew what you needed to do to min-max, and it was difficult to go back and read through all that stuff to a degree. But if there's going to be min-maxing in this game, it's going to be even harder to min-max. Because if you made the wrong choices at one point in time, you may not be able to go back from those. But I think what they're really trying to focus on is that regardless of how you build your character, there's going to be slightly better ones, slightly worse ones, but it's not going to like punish you for playing the way that you want to play. Like, so much so that you're completely inviolable, right? Like, if you're a holy paladin in WoW and you want to be a Shakadin, you can't do that anymore. You'll be pumping out like no DPS compared to anyone else, right? But here, you'll be pumping out competitive DPS. It just won't be the highest in the game.
Right.
Which is great. And as long as they tune the content accordingly to where it's not like smash your face into the wall hard like some of the bosses in Warcraft are at the higher difficulty levels, that's great.
Yeah. If they tune the content to where you can allow for people to experiment and be all the different combinations that they want to be that appeal most to them, then this whole thing works out great. Otherwise, you have it like a World of Warcraft where you must be this spec and you must do this and you have to follow this exact method, or else it's lol noob, you suck. Why'd you do that? Your DPS is nerfed. Wah. So, I'm curious to see how it plays long term.
There's no auto attack changes things too, right? Because if you're a person that's actually not pushing the auto attack button a lot or not doing all that, then that's going to make you be a noob, right? Not, are you casting the right spells in the right order?
Right.
Or if you're not dodging things. So I think the emphasis is different. I'm not saying it's a WoW killer. It's not, right? Nothing's a WoW killer. The only thing that can kill WoW is WoW. But it's good. I've liked it thus far. I don't regret buying it. So, that I think that's something good to say.
Well, that's definitely something good to say. Well, let's talk about now the games now coming up for April 29th. What do we got coming out?
The first big one is The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And pump the brakes before you think, oh, it's a movie release game. The first Amazing Spider-Man game was actually pretty decent. It wasn't the best Spider-Man game that's ever been created, but it was pretty good. And definitely one of the better movie, title tied-in games that have come out in the last few years. And so this Amazing Spider-Man 2 looks to be everything that one was. The interesting thing, though, is that it's going to be released on every console, and it was originally planned to be released on Xbox One, but for some inexplicable reason in the last week, they pulled the Xbox One version of it.
Strange. So
that being said, though, it's still more or less a port to next gen because it's being developed, I think, originally for PS3 and Xbox 360. So, it's a port, but you'll be able to get it on pretty much everything. I think it's even coming to Vita and 3DS, or at least a version of it's coming to 3DS. So Amazing Spider-Man 2 is coming out. Also, the retail release, in case you didn't download the $40 downloadable version of Rambo the crap game. Yeah. All that you need to know, I just put this here because it was on the GameStop video game release thing. The only thing you need to know about this video game, if you're even curious about it, if you're a big Rambo fan like I am, now I'm a big First Blood fan, not so much Rambo 2 and Rambo 3, but they're fun for what they are. All you need to know about this video game, go watch Angry Joe's review of Rambo the video game, and you'll be entertained and not have to drop $40 on it. It'll be free. You'll be able to enjoy someone else's misery in playing this piece of crap. Also, lastly, Gardening Mama 2, Forest Friends on the 3DS. Gardening Mama is basically a spiritual successor to, I guess there's a Gardening Mama 1.
I guess so.
I didn't even know. It's a spiritual successor to Cooking Mama, which surprisingly was a really fun DS game back in the day. So there you go. If you got kids or something, Gardening Mama might be the way to go. It's one of those cool, addictive kid type games, So actually, I had fun playing it when I was 22, Cooking Mama at least. So yeah, go figure.
And addicting type Cake Mania was one that my wife was addicted to on the DS for a while, actually. She's not a gamer, but Cake Mania, that was her jam at one point.
Cooking Mama was a really good game. It was a really surprising hit, I think.
Yeah, nice. All right, that's Virtual Insanity this week. Let's talk movies now and head over to Picture Show. All right, it's Picture Show time to talk movie news. And first up, Gambit, Deadpool, and Mystique solo movies. There is a chance we may see some of those. Sony is ready to churn out the Spider-Man movies and spin-offs, and Fox is finally ready to do the same with X-Men. First on their wish list could possibly be Mystique, Gambit, and Deadpool. Here's ex-producer Lauren Schuler Donner speaking with Entertainment Weekly. There was a regime at the studio that didn't see the worth in spin-offs, and the current people who run Fox understand, embrace it, and we're going to do right by it. I'd like to do Gambit. I'd like to do Deadpool. We'll see. There's a lot of really great characters. With shapeshifter Mystique, Jennifer Lawrence taking a pivotal role in Past's plot, Donner says she'd be interested in taking that character into a solo film. And one of the things that I mentioned in the legendary episode about Lauren Schuler Donner is that she's been speaking with she has been speaking with everybody's favorite magic Channing Tatum, yes, about playing Gambit in the Gambit film, yes.
So Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique. Weirdly enough, there was a discussion on AMC Movie Talk, who follow us on Twitter and who I listen to and watch every day. They had a debate about which Mystique was better, Rebecca Romaine Stamos's or Jennifer Lawrence. Now, there's no question that Jennifer Lawrence is the better actress between the two of them, right?
Yeah.
But what's funny is they universally agreed, and I agree with them, that Rebecca Romaine Stamos was the better Mystique.
She was a really, really good Mystique.
She embodied what that weird alien, just slinky, you don't know what's going inside of her head version of Mystique, right? And at least the writing in X-Men First Class didn't give Jennifer Lawrence that kind of take on Mystique. So her motivations were very teenagerish, and maybe they're going to give her more to do in Days of Future Past, and they've kind of been hinting, saying that she's going to get closer to that Rebecca Romaine Stamos Mystique. So maybe if they give her that type of role, she can really excel and grow into it. But interesting that they're really targeting a Mystique solo film. And get this, a Mystique solo film would be, I think, I'm not 100% on this, so don't crucify me for this, would be the first featured female-led superhero movie.
The first?
I think so.
Well, we had Elektra.
They never made a... Oh, God. Oh, God. Okay.
I had to go and bring up that wound.
Now I know why, and I've been on this crusade for a while about we need to have more female lead superhero movies like Miss Marvel, who's one of my favorite superheroes, or now she's Captain Marvel, but Miss Marvel is one of my favorite superheroes. Wonder Woman is one of my favorite superheroes. Having their own feature movie, not just being like a member of the X-Men, or a member of the Fantastic Four, or whatever it may be, or a member of the Avengers, like in the case of Black Widow or Scarlet Witch. But yeah, so now I know why no one else has done it, because they tried it with Elektra, and that was so ungodly awful.
They're scared.
It destroyed it for years.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay, so the first, I'm going to black that one out. The first, I'm going to stick with the other thing. It'll be the first female-led superhero movie. But what's interesting about both of them is that Elektra and Mystique are both feminine anti-heroes. More or less. I mean, Mystique even more so on that villainous range, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Elektra is definitely more on that anti-hero area, and whereas Mystique's pretty much a villain, although Elektra's been a villain in the past too. So it makes you wonder, like, maybe that's what's wrong with it. Not with Gal Gadot. Just give me a Wonder Woman movie. Come on. Or Miss Marvel's probably going to beat him to it, because Marvel's going to, with this Guardians of the Galaxy thing, they're opening the possibility with the Nova Corps and all that other stuff for like the Kree and the Krull, and they're going to open that window for Miss Marvel. And so I wouldn't be surprised at all if we don't see in Marvel's Phase 3. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we get Doctor Strange, possibly Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Actually, we're getting Cap 3. So I would see Doctor Strange, Cap 3. I don't know if they're going to do a Thor 3. I think they are. And then a Miss Marvel standalone movie. Or if Miss Marvel's in Avengers 3. I really would not be surprised at all.
Yeah.
Because if anyone's seen the Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes cartoon, that's like the entire 2-season series is on Netflix right now. It's fantastic. Watch that and you will love Miss Marvel as much as I love Miss Marvel.
Nice.
And you'll love the Wasp as much as I love her too. So watch that show. That show's awesome. It's a great comic book cartoon.
Before we move on to the next thing, do you think a Gambit or a Mystique, are these strong enough characters to carry their own movie? That's my question.
I just got on that whole feminine like superhero or woman superhero tirade that I just had. I don't think Mystique is strong enough to have her own movie.
I question that too. I mean, she can be a really cool character, but can she carry her own movie is what I'm not sure about.
And I have the fear that they're kind of doing that simply because they know they have Jennifer Lawrence and she costs a lot of money, so we might as well give her own movie vehicle for it, Yeah. I don't know if the character of Mystique can carry a whole movie. I'm trying to think of... I mean, there's so many good female characters in the X-Men universe, but I don't know if any of them really could carry their own movie. I really don't think any of the male ones could either, with the exception of Wolverine.
Right.
Like, I don't think you can make a Cyclops standalone movie.
Right, no.
I don't know if you can make a Gambit standalone movie. They were talking about making it with Taylor Kitsch, but who played Gambit in the X-Men Origins Wolverine, which he was probably, in my opinion, he was only one of the only bright spots in that movie.
Yeah.
But Channing Tatum as Gambit?
Yeah. I don't like it.
I think Deadpool could be its own movie, but Gambit and Mystique, I don't think either one of them really is. I mean, Marvel's got stronger female lead characters than Mystique. I would say Storm has a better shot of having a standalone movie than Mystique does in terms of X-Men. So I would say Rogue has a better shot at a standalone movie than Mystique, but you know, I could just be biased in that respect, but I just don't know enough about Mystique, you know, to really make her strong enough to have a standalone movie. Like, I know that like Mystique and Azazel apparently produced Nightcrawler, but I don't want to see a teleporting red mutant make out with a blue shape-shifting. That'd be weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't know how many people would go to see that.
Right. You have to do it right, and I don't know. It's questionable. We'll see. Well, we shall see on that one. Let's get to our.
I mean, I could. Okay. Here's my other pitch. If Fox, if you're gonna do one, here's how I would do it. And I know that they don't own the rights to this character that I'm going to mention, but you make a Storm in Africa movie, like where she's maybe like a Storm Origins movie where she's just discovering her powers and everything, and then you know, Charles Xavier comes and like people are starting to worship her and this and that, like, and Charles Xavier comes and kind of like brings her in and everything like that. That could be like the end of the movie, right? And she has like a villain to fight it in the movie, in which there's actually a really cool villain. I forget what his name is, but it's in the Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, I think, cartoon. But you could have the movie end in one of two ways. Either she's separated from the X-Men and she's doing her own thing now, or she's a young version. And either way, you could have this. Either at the end, she meets Charles Xavier and gets brought into the X-Men fold if she's younger, or if she's the older one, at the very end, she meets Black Panther.
There you go.
And then you could have a Black Panther movie, and then you could have a Storm and Black Panther movie.
Yes. Interesting.
And I love Black Panther too, so like that would be awesome. But I mean, her power set's cooler than Mystique's, but I don't know. Whatever it is, just Halle Berry's been good as Storm for a while, but no more Halle Berry. Like, recast someone as Storm.
All right, so that's our Marvel news there. Let's get to some more movie news. And I had to bring this up because this is one of my favorite childhood movies. We may be getting a new Flash Gordon movie. That's right. Flash. Oh! I love Flash Gordon. I haven't seen it recently to see if it stands the test of time for me. But as a kid, I flipping loved this movie. And now 20th Century Fox has picked up the rights to it with John Davis of Chronicle producing it. They've set the Star Trek 3 writers, J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay, to write the script. So they've got a plan in place. They've got a producer. They've got writers. And they're looking at bringing Flash Gordon back after all these years, who we haven't seen since, God, what was the other movie? 1980, I want to say?
That we haven't seen since Ted.
That's true. He was in Ted, and that was pretty funny.
I'm convinced that's the reason why this movie's getting made.
You might be right.
All these kids had. I think that movie was produced by Fox too, because of Seth MacFarlane and his relationship with Fox. No kid these days knows what the heck Flash Gordon is unless you're like super nerd, right? And your parents and your parents are nerds, and they introduced you to Flash Gordon. And just like He-Man, like a lot of kids these days, like, don't really get He-Man as much as like people my age and your age, you know?
Yeah.
And She-Ra. Thundercats has that Cartoon Network show, so it's at least kept a little bit of momentum with the younger crowd. But yeah, like no kid knows what the heck Flash Gordon's all about these days. But they all went and saw Ted, and now they all have a point of reference. And they all thought that part was hilarious, and they all went and saw Ted, so they're like, why don't we make a Flash Gordon movie too? We introduced it to them in Ted.
That is a great conspiracy theory right there. I like it. Either way, I'm happy about this. I want to bring Flash Gordon back. I'm all in.
I hope they make this movie in a super, like, I hope they don't make it like John Carter, you know?
Yeah.
Like, where they take it so seriously. And I know that book's a little more serious than Flash Gordon, obviously. But I hope that they don't, like, make Flash Gordon super serious and all that stuff, you know? I hope they make it... I'm trying to think of the best way to describe this. Do you remember that band that came out in the early 2000s called The Darkness?
It sounds really familiar. Oh, they did that.
Thing called love.
Yes.
That one.
Yes.
So like that made those music videos, and their sound was completely like ripped out of the 80s.
Yeah.
And their music videos were completely ripped out of the 80s. If they make this movie like a parody type, not parody, but you know what I mean, like an homage type to those types of movies, it would be awesome.
I don't know. I don't know that I want Flash Gordon to go like kitschy type. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be
like the idea
serious.
of making like an 80s metal movie, like homage with Flash Gordon.
That would actually just be kind of cool on its own. But
yeah, I don't think you could make a series out of that, which I think is what they probably hope to do, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I would look at it this way. If either version of the film turns out bad, the one that will at least develop a cult following is the one that tried to be intentionally bad.
True.
If the movie tries to be John Carter and nobody likes it, then they're not going to make any more movies and no one's going to watch it again. I don't know of a single human being that saw John Carter and is like, yeah, I have that in my library. I watched it a lot.
Right. Yeah, no one. All right, next up in movie news. I had to believe that this was fake, but it is here on comingsoon.net. It is not April 1st. Marshmallow Peeps, you know, the candy from Easter, the marshmallow weird, sticky, coated in sugar candy shaped like a yellow bird. Well, apparently it is now getting its own movie. Deadline reports that I can't even read this with a straight face. Marshmallow Peeps are being targeted for the big screen. The Underdog writer Adam Rifkin has secured the rights to this sugary treat and will be providing the screenplay. The Peeps movie is planned to take place on the eve of a diorama contest. The heroic lead Peep will have to journey through various other dioramas and their respective fantasy environments to return to its rightful home. I want to believe this is a joke, but I have found nothing to tell me that it is. I wish it was. Apparently, we're going to get the Peeps movie. I know there's a lot of Peeps people out there. I think they're disgusting, personally. I do not eat Peeps.
I like them. Once a year at Easter time, I like Peeps. But not more than like one package a year, you know? I can't like sit there and binge eat Peeps. But I blame the Lego movie.
Definitely.
Like, now, that being said, I had zero faith in the Lego movie when they first announced it. I thought it was a stupid idea, and I thought there's no way that you can make this movie good. They proved me 100% wrong. But they were the first to do it, and they had a lot going against him. Now you have a new Peeps movie, a new Minecraft movie. I also saw an article that the title of the article was this: a Barbie movie is set to be produced because God is dead.
Wow.
They're talking about making a Barbie movie. I can't imagine what else. If Peeps is on the radar for a movie,
it's like, crazy. Anything.
What the heck else are they planning on making?
Nothing is off limits when the Peeps are becoming a movie.
Because of the Lego movie. Yeah. And I'm glad the Lego movie was great. But now we're going to have to suffer through a bunch of crap that's trying to capture that magic for maybe like one more golden nugget.
That's true. You know? That is true. That's what we've got here. Who knows? Maybe they can catch lightning in a bottle a second time, and
I guess why am I like sighing, right? If I hear it stinks, I'm not going to see it.
That's true. That's true.
No skin off my back, I guess. Right. So
it's just a weird one. It's just a weird one. So there we go. The Peeps movie.
Did it say who was producing it?
I did not see who was actually producing it. No, just the writer.
As long as it's not like Pixar or so. Well, if it's Pixar, it'll probably be good. But as long as it's not like a Disney or some company like that should be making other things like the Incredibles sequel.
Right.
And spending their time on the Peeps movie and money on the Peeps movie instead. Like, come on, do the other movies first, you know?
Right.
But,
Exactly. And next up, we're now looking at Danny Boyle possibly to direct the Steve Jobs biopic, which was previously rumored to be directed by David Fincher, who is now out. And I believe that was another topic that was on the legendary episode of the Mach 5 podcast, where I discussed David Fincher being out. And yes, he is out. And there was a variety of different reasons that were coming up about that. The film being written by Aaron Sorkin, possibly looking at Danny Boyle to direct, and Leonardo DiCaprio has been approached to star in it, which is a really interesting actor choice. If we're saying
great actor,
I love Leo. I mean,
top 3 actor in Hollywood today.
In my list of actors that I want to go and grab a drink with, where your number 1 might be Tom Cruise.
It is Tom Cruise. I thought about it.
Leo's my number 1. So
okay,
love the dude.
I think that Leo would be a little. This is why we're different. I think that Leo would be kind of into himself, you know, in that kind of like, yeah, I'm Leonardo DiCaprio, like leaning back in the chair, like have you ask all the questions, you know, and not actually engage in a dialogue with you, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he would just be there to answer your questions, whereas Tom Cruise, who, in my opinion, is maybe not as ranged of an act. Well, maybe he is. Both of them, I don't think. Has Tom Cruise ever won an Oscar?
I don't think so.
The two of them together are two of the actors, which it's a travesty that neither one of them have never won an Oscar.
Right.
Because they're both, you know, top 10 actors of all time, I think. But Leo, I just don't get that fun vibe from him. Like Tom, like everything I've heard about him, it sounds like he's a super fun guy. Like he may be into himself, but he's at least going to engage back with you, you know?
Yeah. Well,
and jump on a couch, you know?
He will do that. All right, we have totally.
I want to have fun times jumping on a couch with Leo or with Tom.
Yeah. All right.
I won't convert to Scientology. Don't be afraid, Jason. You won't lose me.
Me and Leo.
You won't lose me to the Scientologist.
That's
church.
good. That's good. I think Leo would be an awesome dude to hang with. I want to prove that right. So yeah, I love the guy, but I'm trying to picture him as Steve Jobs. That's where I think it's an interesting choice. So I'm still curious to see where they go with this movie for sure. It's early.
Leo, like before I got sidetracked on the Tom Cruise thing, Leo, top 3 actor right now in Hollywood, easily, if not the top.
He's up there.
And you know, I can't see him as Steve Jobs. And I'm not saying you have to pick a guy that looks exactly like Steve Jobs, right?
Right.
But I don't know if Leo's mannerisms and his typical role and cadence and stuff like that fits Steve Jobs.
Right.
I don't know who would. Now, I think that Ashton Kutcher who I think is kind of underrated as an actor. I haven't seen that other film, the other Jobs film, the first one that came out. I think Ashton Kutcher isn't, you know, a like mind-blowing actor, but I think he's really underrated. And I think he looked the part of Steve Jobs that entire movie.
Yeah, he did.
To the point where like I've seen previews and stuff and I look at it and I'm like, yeah, it's Ashton Kutcher, but it's Steve Jobs. I can pull myself out and not see Ashton Kutcher there.
Yeah, you can tell he worked on the mannerisms. He worked on the walk and the way he carried himself and all of that. And
I'm sure Leo would do the same.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't know how in the world they get him to look like Steve Jobs.
Yeah, that's what I wondered too. It would very interesting. So we'll see where that goes, and if it does, you know, if Leo is the guy that gets cast, or if they look to somebody else, but possibly Danny Boyle to direct, maybe. Curious to see where this movie goes from here, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, in picture show news, J.K. Rowling's The Casual Vacancy to become an HBO miniseries. Yes, that's right. The book that she wrote here after Harry Potter was over and done with, it looks like now will become an HBO miniseries. It says that BBC and HBO will co-produce a 3-episode miniseries of The Casual Vacancy, which will air on BBC One in the UK and HBO in the US. And there we go. We're gonna have this J.K. Rowling miniseries come out, and we'll see how that goes. I have not read this book, but
neither have I. But there are a couple reasons why you should buy this as a potentially good thing or be excited about it. One, does the BBC help HBO co-produce Game of Thrones?
Do they?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
They did Rome, I'm pretty sure.
Did they?
Yeah. And Rome is fantastic.
Yeah.
And the BBC is great at making 3-episode or Sherlock's not really 3 episodes. It is, but they're an hour and a half instead of 45 minutes or an hour.
Right.
But if you've ever watched Sherlock, holy crap, every one of those seasons is amazing. 1, 2, and 3. Like, they're all great.
Yeah, that's one of those that Netflix had ranked a 5-star for me.
Watch it.
So I recently watched the very first episode, and it was good. It was so good.
Oh, and the first one's one of the weakest ones.
Really? Oh, I was like, this show is good. I'm like, I love these guys. I need to watch all of this. I was shocked that it was only 3 episodes in each season.
Oh yeah, but you've got 3 seasons now.
Right. Right.
And okay, so the weakest ones are the first episode in my opinion, and the 5th episode or the second. Sorry. Think. The second episode of the second season, which is the Hound of the Baskervilles episode. That one I think is the weakest in the entire series. The first episode's the second weakest. Every other one's mind-blowing.
Nice.
My favorite one is the first episode of the second season with it's the episode with Laura Pulver plays her. Irene Adler, the character that Rachel McAdams plays in the Robert Downey Jr. version of that. Watch that version. You won't be able to watch the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock films anymore. And I thought the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock films were really good. Then I watched this.
Yeah.
And I was like, yep, not watching that anymore. And I watched both of those movies a few times because I liked them a lot. And then I saw the Sherlock BBC show, and I was like, yep, not watching anything else. I don't need Sherlock anymore. That's Sherlock. I don't need a Sherlock anything anymore. Benedict Cumberbatch is Sherlock, and Martin Freeman is Watson. I don't need anything else.
Game over. The end.
Game
done.
over. They won. They broke Sherlock Holmes for everyone else.
Nice. Yeah, the movies were okay. I didn't see the second movie. The first one was okay. I didn't like Rachel McAdams at all in it, but that's neither here nor there right now. We were talking Casual Vacancy, HBO miniseries. Stay tuned for that.
If who's producing it, and I don't know anything about the book, but who's producing it gives me full faith in the ability for it to be awesome.
100%, definitely. All right, that's Picture Show News. Let's talk tech now in Technobabble. All right, it's Technobabble time, where we talk technology news. And first up, we've talked about Windows 8 in the past, and we've talked about the possibility of the Start menu. And apparently, according to The Verge today, Windows 8 Start menu set to return in August. They revealed earlier in the month that the Start menu will return to Windows 8. And while Microsoft is keeping the timing for its return vague, sources familiar with the company's plans tell The Verge that the Start menu will likely be available in the second update to Windows 8.1, which is currently scheduled for August. Microsoft's Terry Myerson, head of Windows and Xbox software, demonstrated an early prototype earlier this month, and that was what the Start menu will look like once it's available. Basically a hybrid of the old Windows 7 Start menu with some of the new Windows 8 Live tiles along the side of it. I think this is a great return for Windows users like myself to get our Start menu back. I find that the Live tiles are fine. I've gotten used to them, but the start menu is just easy. It's quick. You have the programs you want to use right there. Bam, 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 bam. I'm glad to see it's finally getting its return. And if it's August, that's not soon enough for me.
I'm not a big Windows user, and I'm ecstatic about this, so I can only imagine how ecstatic people are who use Windows on a daily basis are.
Yeah. Yeah, all the people who... See, some people, like more of the techies like ourselves, can adapt to change, and I adapted pretty quickly to the Windows 8 interface. But you have an older crowd out there of people who aren't as tech savvy, right? So you give them this big change and their minds have been blown. They haven't been able to handle it. It's been nothing but pure frustration. So those people out there, I'm sure, are rejoicing when Windows updates and they see that their start menu has returned, the old familiar friend, and Windows starts to feel like it used to. Those people will probably be very, very thankful. Next up, Apple news. Moving from Microsoft to Apple, anyone will now be able to test the OS X beta because it will be open to the public. Apple has released public beta tests of individual Mac apps in recent years, but they have not allowed it for OS X itself. Well, that all changes. Apple has launched the OS X beta seed program, and starting with OS X 10.9.3, you can try pre-release operating system updates by signing in with your Apple ID. You'll still have to sign a developer-style agreement promising to keep some details a secret, but for free, you'll now be able to use your Apple ID, sign in, and access OS X beta versions before they go live to the general public for free. There you go, Apple users.
I'm not a big beta tester myself, but that's cool news for Apple users who need to, or who would like to beta test the new OS X's, and especially like the developers who want to develop on those platforms.
Yeah,
I think it might actually spur some. Every update to OS X has had at least one new feature that I've really liked about it, but I feel like maybe this having people actually involved in the beta test will actually maybe spur some more innovation quicker, which I think is something kind of cool to look forward to.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that's really cool for all the you Mac people out there. You can try out the operating systems in advance if you like, and you can do it for free. Next up in Technobabble, Amazon Instant Video is now getting, yes, that's right, HBO shows. You can't get HBO shows anywhere currently unless you are using HBO Go and your subscription to HBO, but now they have signed a deal with Amazon Instant Video. Sorry about your luck, Netflix. And now there will be shows that HBO has created that are available on Amazon Instant Video. And some of those shows are The Sopranos, The Wire, Deadwood, Rome, 6 Feet Under, Eastbound and Down, Flight of the Conchords, Enlightened. Then you have the miniseries like Band of Brothers, Angels in America, John Adams, certain seasons of Boardwalk Empire, True Blood, so you're going to get some really, really popular HBO series only available to you now via Amazon Instant Video. That was a huge deal for Amazon.
Oh, yeah. Massive deal, especially since most people, a lot of the people who have Amazon Prime also don't have cable,
Mm-hmm.
So actually I read an article also dealing with this specific issue that tried to summarize why Amazon is doing this and paying for the exclusive rights for HBO content. And it's because they found that for their $100 a year Amazon Prime subscription, people who have Amazon Prime are I forget what percentage it was, but it was a significant percentage higher, more likelihood to actually purchase things from Amazon. So they assume that by paying for this content, people they have the Amazon Prime shipping options, and now they'll actually buy stuff from Amazon.com too. And so they're planning on attracting more people who then buy more stuff from them.
Yeah. Amazon, look at them go.
Look at them building up this. I mean,
this Amazon empire.
I felt like in the last year, Amazon Prime has just gone nuts. Like,
yeah,
it went from that also ran, like, okay, it's there, it's nice, whatever, to this now right up there, with Netflix juggernaut.
If you don't have HBO and don't want to pay the $18 a month or whatever it is for HBO, to have it with Amazon Prime and the instant video is a really, really nice feature.
Unfortunately, you won't be getting Game of Thrones though.
No, that's true. That is true. So you'll have to wait for that one. And speaking of Netflix not getting HBO, well, what's Netflix up to, you ask? Netflix is raising their streaming subscription price for new users. Netflix CEO Reed Hastings and CFO David Wells delivered the news in a letter to investors, and that letter said that our current view is to do a $1 or $2 increase, depending on the country, later this quarter for new members only. And this is the first rate increase since Netflix's big attempt to spin off the streaming service into this separate service in 2011, and that move was so universally disliked that Netflix reversed its decision and never actually implemented that plan.
Oh, Quickster. You came and died so quickly.
The current price hike looks much more likely to stick. It was first tested in Ireland, where, according to the company, it had little impact. So we're looking at a couple dollars, $1 or $2 price increase on the streaming service. I wonder why they decided on that.
I wonder why they decided on new users only.
Yeah. I mean,
so it doesn't affect me. I mean, I'm
right.
Probably never going to cancel my Netflix subscription unless they just completely go in the, like,
right.
I pay for Netflix and I have my account tied to two of my friends and my dad and my grandfather. And I pay for that in exchange for like their HBO Go login. And so, and they've done a wonderful job with implementing multiple profiles now so that, everyone has their own queue and stuff like that. And that's great because it doesn't affect me any, but I feel bad for those people who are now, planning on subscribing to Netflix. Although maybe they assume that so many people already have Netflix. Those new adopters are very few and far between,
Yeah, that could be. I mean, you got to think that they're making so much money. Do they need the extra $1 or $2 from new subscribers?
I look at it this way. Netflix has kind of changed the game when it comes to producing quality exclusive content on their own, and they're trying to fund that.
Okay.
And me as an existing user, now I haven't watched House of Cards, Hemlock Grove, or Orange is the New Black, or the Arrested Development, and I'm sure there's a few others too.
Yeah.
I haven't watched any of those, but I'm glad they're giving them to us, and they're unique, and you have to have Netflix to watch them. And if that means them, and I've heard nothing but wonderful things about House of Cards. I'm going to watch Hemlock Grove because it has my new buddy Candace McClure in it. I'm going to watch Orange is the New Black when I get around to it. I'm going to watch all of these things because I've heard nothing but good things about them. And, if they're going to give us more of that type of stuff, I'm fine with paying another $1 or $2 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially because I don't have cable. So,
right. So, yeah.
It gives me, I'm paying for more unique content. I look at it that way. And it helps me justify having an Amazon Prime account and the Netflix account because now I'm getting exclusive things from my Netflix account in addition to the Amazon Prime.
It's a good point. Good point. All right. And finally, in Technobabble, Spoiler Shield is the first line of defense against spoilers. It's not just defense against the dark arts, ladies and gentlemen. It is defense against spoilers. So let's say you're holding off on watching your favorite TV show. You've got it DVR'd, and you check your social media, and guess what? Your show has been completely spoiled. Well, Spoiler Shield is a free iOS app that allows you to scan your Facebook and Twitter feeds without worrying about unintentionally finding out who killed who on your favorite show. When you're viewing your feeds with the app, any post that matches your specified shields appears blocked with the option to reveal the devious text if you'd like. You can see what the blocking looks like in this screenshot here, which is on this website. Your shield blocks spoiling Your shields block spoiling tweets regardless of when they appear during the week, so it's an easy and efficient way to keep yourself in the dark. So basically, with this app, you could probably put in Game of Thrones as a keyword as your quote shield, and then anything that pops up that has that in your feed, either on Facebook or Twitter, is blocked, and that way you don't get things spoiled for you.
I'm a person that cares not a peep about spoilers. I'm a person who, if you tell me something, like if I don't see Game of Thrones at night, I want you to tell me the instant something happens. I don't have to see it for myself.
Wow,
I read plot synopses before I go and see movies.
Yep.
That's who I am. So for me, this doesn't matter. But one of my biggest pet peeves is the people that get on Facebook and Twitter and stuff and then lambast the rest of the world for trying to have a conversation with something that they've just seen.
Yeah.
If you're so, I don't want any Game of Thrones spoilers, right? Then don't look at your news feed.
Right.
Don't look at your news feed. Now, if someone posts something directly on your Facebook wall or sends you a private message or a text message, directly to you, yeah,
right.
You got a problem with that person.
Subject line, red wedding.
Yeah. Subject line. Yeah, exactly. Subject line, red wedding, subject line, purple wedding, whatever it may be.
Right.
But that's your problem with that specific person, but I can't stand it. Okay, every Sunday, whether it be Walking Dead or Game of Thrones, luckily like the following on Arrow and Shield and stuff like that aren't super agitated like that, but Walking Dead and Game of Thrones especially, every Sunday I get on there right after the show. I don't post anything about it, but I see 10 people on there saying, I hate all you people for posting Game of Thrones spoilers. How dare you ruin my, I'm like, if it mattered that much to you, don't look at your Facebook wall until you've watched it.
Right. Exactly.
These people are trying to have a conversation with the people that have seen it, and they don't know directly like who's seen it and who hasn't.
Right.
That annoys me. So install Spoiler Shield and protect yourself against that so that the rest of the people who want to have that discussion can have that discussion without you lambasting them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm somebody who I don't want things spoiled. And that just drives me nuts, the people, though, who get upset about people having the conversation, because that's what social media is for, right?
Yeah.
You're supposed to live tweet your shows.
Watch things.
Right. And so for me, I know when when there's something on and I'm not watching it or I'm watching it later, like I literally will not check social media for a day if I have to. I'm off the grid because I have Game of Thrones on DVR, so I gotta wait a day before I can get back in touch with anyone. So yeah. Everybody else, get Spoiler Shield.
Yeah, get Spoiler Shield. Save yourself.
Exactly. So that's our Technobabble this week. Now, let's finish it up by jumping into the loot bag.
It's loot bag time. Come on, grab your friends, and we'll snag the latest nerdy trends. So grab your pogs and fight some mutants. Fun will never end. It's loot bag time.
All right, it's loot bag time, where Jacob will reach into the big old loot bag and pull out some goodies for you. Let's see what we've got this week.
This week, we have a product from thinkgeek.com. Hopefully, they're shut up and take our money, or shut up and take, why am I messing up their website? Shutupandtakemymoney.com.
Yes.
They're friends of the show. Hopefully, ThinkGeek at some point can also become friends of the show, since we rep a lot of their stuff as well. Is the evoMouse, the virtual mouse, the snuffleupagus of mouses. Well, what is it, you ask? Well, our iPads and tablets have taught us to embrace gesture-based navigation. When we can't see something well, we do the zoom anti-pitch if there's even a chance that the surface might be a touchscreen. It's only embarrassing when you're in public. How many times have you done that, where you're in your Facebook app and you can't see something, so you think you can zoom like the pinch, thing?
Yeah. Yep.
Now is the right time for evoMouse, a virtual mouse that works via infrared. Once you flip the little guy on, who looks like a little dog, which doesn't hurt, almost any flat, smooth surface becomes a touchpad. You can click and drag and scroll and even right-click just with your fingers. How does it work? It combines an IR pulse emitter with a time-of-flight CMOS sensor, in other words, magic. The very best part is when your boss asks to drive at your computer and isn't aware you use it. Where's your mouse? Right there. That never gets old. So
this looks cool. I'm looking at the diagrams here.
I don't know how well it would work, but I saw it and I was like, this is really cool. So basically, you just use a surface as your mouse and your gestures with your fingers become your clicks. I can see it being kind of disorienting, at first, but I can imagine people getting really efficient with it.
Yeah, I think at first I might be a little disoriented too, but it's like you could just, instead of having a mouse and a mouse pad, you're just sitting at your desk, have your hand on your desk and just pinching and moving around, drag, click, double click, forward, back. And with the little snuffleupagus of mouses in front of you, it reads your movement. That's pretty cool.
I kind of want to try to play Elder Scrolls Online or Skyrim with this.
Really?
I kind of want to try it because I kind of want to just wave my finger around to look. So I'm actually moving my arm and hand. And then when I want to attack something, just smack the table.
Right.
It probably wouldn't work very well. I don't think this will ever take the place of gaming stuff, but I just think it's so unique and so cool. I had to talk about it here.
Let me throw one other thing out right now. Last week in the Legendary episode, last time
and we keep
going to
getting
say
these
that
flashbacks. It's like we're recording an episode of Arrow, where Jason flashes back to his time on the island, aka the Legendary episode.
Right. Oh, the Legendary episode. That's going to be, the Legendary episode is just going to be folklore for years to come. But the thing that I talked about was something that I saw actually on Twitter was pop culture barware. So it's popculturebarware.com. If you're into glasses, pint glasses, shot glasses, coasters, ice cube trays, any of those type of things with superheroes, pop culture references, Game of Thrones, any of that sort of thing, check it out. It's a website, lets you just purchase some Spider-Man glasses, Duff beer from the Simpsons glasses, Game of Thrones glasses, all that stuff is aggregated here on Pop Culture Barware. I like glassware. I said this on the Legendary episode. I have special beer glasses for every type of beer and wine. I have a little whiskey, a Scotch tasting glass. So I love my barware. I love my glassware. So I just want to give a shout out to Pop Culture Barware and various pop culture glasses and drinkware and all sorts of cool stuff. So Pop Culture Barware, there you go.
What is it on Game of Thrones that they drink wine out of? Is it it's a mug? Is it what's that officially called? Mead glass?
Like a flagon or mead?
Because they're putting wine in it. They're not putting beer in it,
Yeah.
I don't know, but I want one of those that has this engraved upon it. I am the gods of beep and wine. And if you watch Game of Thrones, you know what the beep stands for. Quote, Tyrion Lannister, most awesome character ever in the history of life.
Yes. Nice. So yeah, there we go.
Did you know a little fun fact? I found this out last week. I watched his new film, Knights of Badassdom on the plane.
Yes.
With Peter Dinklage. Did you know that Peter Dinklage is from New Jersey?
I did not know that.
I thought he was British.
Oh, I knew he was American.
Really?
But I didn't know where he was from. Yeah.
I think that's because I think everyone in Game of Thrones is pretty much British, or at least from somewhere in Europe, not the United States.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure that most everybody is. And Peter Dinklage had me fooled the whole time. I thought that was his natural way of talking.
Ah, look at that. He tricked you.
He tricked me. Did you know he was also apparently Bruce Springsteen's neighbor?
Really?
And that Bruce Springsteen used to come over to his house and crap, and he used to go over to Bruce Springsteen's house?
I did not know that.
That's even cooler.
Yes.
So, Peter Dinklage, winning in TV and in real life.
I've seen interviews with him, though, so I've heard him talk. So I kind of knew how he talked. But
funny, I've never seen an interview with him before, which is weird.
Yeah.
But if you haven't seen Knights of Badassdom, not a movie I'd watch with your kids, but I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's a directed to DVD movie, but it's got Ryan Quanten from True Blood, Peter Dinklage, Steve Zahn, Summer Glau. It's got like all your favorite TV personalities in there, and they're LARPing, and basically they unleash an evil demon from hell in real life. In the middle of this LARP thing where everyone just kind of assumes it's nothing, you know? And it goes back and it harkens at points back to that cheesy 80s horror movie vibe, monster movie flick. Because when you finally see the monster at the end, you just can't help but laugh.
You know, I was just watching something recently and I saw the trailer for Knights of Badassdom.
I sent it to you.
Oh, you did? I was like, what was I watching where I saw this? I'm like, this has been stuck in my head now.
I sent it to you.
I
was like, this looks awesome. And I watched it and it's awesome. There was another movie about LARPing that came out called Role Models with Sean William Scott and McLovin and I think Paul Rudd too.
Yes.
It was in there. It was okay. I think Peter Dinklage was in that too. I can't remember for sure. I know Chang from Community and The Hangover and whatnot was in that, but it wasn't as good because it was trying to do other things, right? But this is a movie legitimately about a bunch of people who are, you know, kind of lost in their own little world and their LARPing thing, and they just so happen to unleash a demon. And it's totally contained within that, and it's a really fun time. I won't say it's like an awesome, amazing, great movie, but it's a fun time if you're into nerdy stuff like the people who listen to the show is. Exactly. Totally worthy of your watch time.
Nice. I need to watch this movie. All right, so that's Loot Bag. I think that's all we've got for you guys this week. So
long episode. This is what happens. This is what happens when Jason records a legendary episode. We have to make the episode after the legendary episode even more legendarier.
That's pretty much how it goes, actually. So yes, don't forget, you can find us on social media at Mach 5 Network. Shoot us an email at mach5network. Shoot us an email at oh my God. Shoot us an email, mach5network@gmail.com.
Subscribe to our Flipboard.
Subscribe to Flipboard. Find us on the iTunes and the Stitcher Radio, all that good stuff. And, you know, I'm going to be out of town next week. We are going to record a picture show. I don't know if we're going to record a Mach 5. We may have a week off next week. We shall see.
We may very well be recording picture show. This will be the first episode that we potentially may record live in person, not via Skype.
Mind blown. The world. Yes, that it's like different systems are aligning and planes of existence are collapsing, and we've
already met each other in person. That's true. That big a deal anymore.
It's not. It's really not.
Although one more date, and it'll be our third date, Jason. You know what that means.
No, I don't. All right, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you had as much fun listening to Mach 5 Network podcast this week. We will talk to you maybe next week, maybe the week after. Stay tuned. Follow us on social media to get updated. We will keep you updated. And until then, take care.
Peace out.
This has been a Mach 5 Network production. Be sure to subscribe to our shows on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. You can also like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Mach 5 Network. Follow us on Twitter at Mach 5 Network and email us at mach5network@gmail.com. Until next week, I'm your announcer, Crown Jules, logging off.